let me take a moment to share my screen and share my slides. Okay. Does everybody see my slides?
Yep.
All right. So first thing, I'll just want to know from you, why do you want to do LinkedIn networking?
I'm really hoping to leverage it to get a job.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Same. But I think I'm very interested in learning more about, posting on LinkedIn, what's appropriate, the best way to go about that, because I see, people post and they get a lot of engagement. Makes you stand out.
Okay.
And I feel like there's opportunities through LinkedIn to use networking through LinkedIn to get jobs that I otherwise wouldn't be able to get through my own network that I know at RIT, as well as just being one resume in a stack of resumes.
So you want to find the hidden job market.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Nidhi, how about you?
Just jobs, and I go with Alyssa's point, to be seen. Usually my account's always inactive. I update very rarely, so what's the best way to be active, I guess?
Okay. All right. And Omar?
So in my case, I'm more along the lines of number 1 and number 3. So basically, just establishing that network that will not only allow me to get a job, but also like look for those type of jobs that sometimes you gotta know the right people to get them.
All right. Anyone else?
I just wanted to add that from my perspective, I agree with all the points. But along with that, I'm in my second year, and I would also look to see what's going on and look for more funding opportunities, maybe. So yeah, that's another point for me.
Okay. I think we have enough reasons to do networking on LinkedIn. So specifically today, I'll start the presentation so you can see better. Anyways, can you see my slides like this?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So specifically, what I want to help everyone today with is how you can find the hidden job market. And by hidden job market, I mean 80% of jobs are not posted online. And I have an example to give. So last time before we were in our labs, before this COVID thing started, I got a job referral that was not even posted online, and that was one of the jobs I was looking for, like the kind of job I was looking for. And it was a postdoc level research specialist position. It was a research engineer position. It was not a postdoc, but a job that paid about $80,000 a year. Okay. And if you want some high paying jobs that can help you in whatever way you're looking at, be it financially or securing a good career, those jobs are not always online. And when I got the job, it said clearly, this job has not been posted yet. And there could be very specific reasons why jobs are not posted online all the time. In my case, it was that the job was waiting a grant. But in other cases, there are situations where the company is growing so fast, they are creating positions so fast that they are not able to post jobs online all the time. So how do you find these jobs? And you can find them in a lot of ways. Like most people, what they would do is go and apply for company websites, through company websites online, search on LinkedIn to find jobs. But There are a few drawbacks to that. If you have ever applied for jobs, you would have realized that finding a job is a full-time job in itself. And most of the time, nobody even looks at our application. In my cases, I have seen that I have applied to jobs and 2 years later, I get a rejection letter. I don't even want that job anymore. So they're still sending me. So it's pretty clear that if we apply online, we are spending our time on it, but we don't even know if anybody is looking at our application. I think everybody deserves that application at their that attention to their profile of what values they have to offer. And the only way to make sure that you are getting noticed is on LinkedIn through networking. So before we get into the networking part, how we network, I cover some of the basics of how you can network, specifically on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a lot like you are inviting someone to view what you have done, what values you have given to other people. But just like when you invite someone to your house, you don't want your trousers lying around the couch and your cat's poop on the floor. You want it to be presentable. Right? Same with LinkedIn. Before you are engaging with people on LinkedIn online, make sure that your LinkedIn house is in a professional shape. I'll explain a little more what I mean by that, a professional shape. And there are 9 things I have compiled that can make your LinkedIn profile very professional looking. I will specifically focus on the first 3 things right now. And if we have time, we can look through the other 6 points. So the first 3 things are a professional headshot, your headline, and your professional summary. Those are the top 3 things that people look at when someone opens your profile. Those are the top 3 things that are on the screen of that person. So that's why I want to focus on the top 3 things. So let's go at the professional picture part of it. So I just copied a profile of someone from LinkedIn, a random person. I see that they did not have a picture. Okay. And I don't want to publicize their name, so I named him Tobey Maguire, the Spider-Man guy. So what do you see when you look at a profile like this? You don't see a person. There is nobody that you can put a face to on this profile. And it's like going to meet someone in a room and wearing a mask. How would the person know who you are if you are a real person? And the only way that you can do that is by having a professional picture of yours on your profile. So if you go to my profile, this is my profile, I can use it without anybody else's permission. So I use my profile as an example. So if you look at my profile, I took the time to get a professional picture. I did it in my room. You don't even need to go to a studio, but if you have $20 to spare, then go to a studio after the COVID-19 thing ends. Since you cannot go out anywhere right now, you can easily do it in your room. Just have someone take a picture where your face is lighted well. You have a solid background behind you with no shadows and everything, and not cropped from another picture. Okay. So many people do that. They have a group picture where they are looking really dashing and they crop everybody else out and put themselves on that. So don't do that. Take some time to take a picture of yourself where you are dressed in a business attire, because that is the first thing that people will look at when they open your profile. Okay. And the second thing that I want to talk about is how you can have a headline. So if you look at my profile, I have 3 headlines, which is the research position I want to work in, additive manufacturing research scientist or research engineer. I don't work in that position, but I want to work in that position. And the second one is something of my personal. So I have given 2 TEDx talks. It's a personal accomplishment that I am very proud about myself. So you can put something personal in there. And the third thing is, oops, so I put this wrong, professional. So third thing is that I put this as an entrepreneur, because that is one of my goals. I want to become an entrepreneur. So your headline should have 3 things in place. Like the first thing would be, who are you professionally, who are you personally, and what do you want professionally. So who are you professionally is a research position or any kind of position, project manager, that you want to work at. Why we do that is because you want to be searchable. Okay, so if you want to get a job, one of the ways that people find you on LinkedIn is by searching for you. The people who are searching for you are recruiters. Okay, so the recruiters are not looking for PhD candidates. They are looking for project managers. They are looking for research engineers. So that is the keyword they will use to search you. So you have to find out the position that you want to work in. What is the exact job title that you want? Just one position. You don't have to be working in that position now, and I want to stress that this is just so that you become searchable on LinkedIn. So recruiters can search you and find you. The second thing is, who are you personally? Like you could be, if you are proud of your skiing skills, that you can do cross-country skiing, put that, avid skier, cross-country skier. Is something that you are proud about yourself personally, and something that you want professionally to end with, which is the third headline. And that can be something that you want to achieve in the future. It can be a future desired state where you want to go. So any questions about this part so far? Your picture and your headline?
I think we're good.
All right. So the next part that I want to cover is, how do you find the position that you want to work in? Okay. So if you look at any industry, any company, there are 4 major areas in which you could work. You could either work in marketing, you could either work in R&D, you can either work in sales, or either application. So for my case, I wanted to work as a research scientist. I want to work somewhere as a research scientist. And those positions typically start with research engineer or any other positions. If you want to work in sales, there are many positions: data analyst, data scientist, many positions. So you have to look at what kind of lifestyle that you want from the position that you will work in, because you will go there for 40 hours a week and you want to spend your time there. So I've just put in some matrix. I got it from one of the forums I am in. What kind of lifestyle do you want? If you want a lot of money, I think sales is the best position to go for. If you are focused on doing research, R&D positions are the ones for you. If you want to focus on applications, there is a very popular job title called application engineer. You could look at that. And if you want to do marketing, there are marketing analysts, many types of job titles. So it just depends on what kind of job title that you want to work in. You can find that out by going through LinkedIn and searching for people in sales, in 3D printing companies. What are their job titles? If you want to look and research, you can do research people in this company. Okay. All right. So after that, the third thing would be the professional summary section. So the professional summary section is this part on LinkedIn. If you go to anybody's profile, I'll go to this person's profile. Just not loading up. Okay. Okay, so this is the about section of the profile. This is what you want to put out to people in the world who want a more detailed understanding of who you are. And this section, how I have found through training in LinkedIn works is if you follow a format. That format is pretty simple. And that format is like this. So start with a transferable skill, followed by your technical experience, followed by your result. And I've put down an example below the graphic. So if your transferable skill and example is if you have strong leadership skills, and how does that transferable skills tie to your technical experience? And that technical experience could be something very specific. For example, like this experience managing research professionals on collaborative projects. The recruiters, when they look at your profile, they probably won't look at the technical experience, but they would be looking at the transferable skill. If you're networking with people on LinkedIn who are working in positions that you want to work in, they'll probably understand your technical experience more. So transferable skills are mostly for getting the attention of recruiters, and technical experience is getting the attention of your peers in the industry. Now always try to follow that with a quantified result. Just put in a number of how much percentage improvement you caused as a result of your activities or your research. And the quantified result just helps you to people to understand that you can get results. You are not just a talker, but you can actually produce results. The best way to visualize results is through numbers or graphs. You cannot put graphs in your summary. So add a number. Just find out a number. You can just make it up. You don't have to be exact in that number. If you think that you got a $95,000 grant or $90,000 grant, you can just guess that you got a $90,000 grant, how much grant you got for your PhD work. So just put those numbers in there, or the percentage improvements you caused in a process. Just puts people's attention that you can get results if you are working on something. So the transferable and technical skills, when you will put that on your profile, what people will focus on is what technical skills you have, and how do you get them? You can just get into job postings. When you go to job postings online, if you look at the job postings of companies, their websites on LinkedIn, you will be able to see what kind of roles they are looking at. Okay, so for example, I copied this. They are looking for a research and development scientist for drug formulations. Look at those and put those keywords in your about section so that you are more searchable for the kinds of jobs you are looking at. So this is again to help recruiters find you easily for the jobs. They are going to search for a research scientist position, and then they are going to look at the about section and see that if you have any experience with drug formulation. This is just an example, and that's how people search for you on LinkedIn. So you have to make yourself searchable. These are the top 3 ways to make yourself searchable. And when you go to your profile on LinkedIn, there is something to help you get visible to recruiters. And this is like a secret button. When you will go into your profile, you will see that there is a button right below your headline, which is the headline, and that button says that open to job opportunities or not. and you can actually go to that and you have to turn that on. There is an option here, you can see that I am no longer open. So you have to turn that button on so that recruiters will be able to search you. Alright. So that's the secret job hire button. So the format that I said, use a transferable skill like leadership skills, follow that with a technical skill, and follow that with a quantified result. Okay, and I have given a few examples of it here. Everybody who is on this call today, I think Cyril, we have a list of the people who are on the call today.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so we can probably share the slides with you if you are on the call, and if there is a way to collect your emails and talk to Cyril, he can do that. So these are some examples of how you can put a professional summary section. Okay, so those, I think I covered the 3 things that I wanted to talk about. And we are 3:23. Okay, so this is what a professional LinkedIn profile looks like. And now I want to hear from you. I talked about the first 3 things. Do you want to discuss about any other specific things on this list? Anyone?
We haven't talked much about networking. So when we've talked about how the profile will look basically.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're trying to approach someone, just not a recruiter, you just want to network with them, how do you approach them? Or what kind of messages I mean, obviously we try to make a connection, but what kind of message are you putting with the connection request?
Okay, that is our second, that is where we are going at, the next section. But before that, like I mentioned, even before you start networking, you have to get your LinkedIn house in order. Okay, and these are the 9 things that you need to do to get your LinkedIn profile in a professional shape. I talked about, yeah.
So there are sections on LinkedIn where you can add, projects and references and papers and all those good things. There's also a section to add classes. Does anyone care about classes?
Courses or classes?
I mean, courses.
I think they do. There's no harm in filling those out.
Sure. Well, as PhDs, we've probably all taken like dozens and dozens and dozens of classes. So from my perspective, it's like, should I go through and add, obviously I pick specific ones. I'm not going to add like Physics 1 and Physics 2 and things like that, but it'll be much more specified courses. But I wasn't sure if I should even take the time to focus on those types of sections, or if there are other sections besides the first 3 that you think are more valuable in terms of time investment. Like if it's more valuable for me to really buff up, the keywords and my skills and things like that.
Okay. Yeah. So one thing that is worth spending time on is the 4th point, like putting images, URL thumbnails and symbols. So I'll take my profile as an example. If you go through my profile with every post that I have, my PhD work, every post I have put a picture or a video on that profile, and it just so that people stay a little longer on your profile, try to see what that picture is, click that picture and see what's going on in your profile, and it just makes people stay focused on your profile for a little longer. Okay.
Rhythm, I have a question. What is your opinion on for having the contact information like your phone number? Is it advisable or we should not include it?
I don't see people usually including phone number, but people do have the email IDs on there.
Okay.
Tell me about 99 plus skill endorsements.
Okay. All right. So if you go at your skills, there's a section of skill endorsements on your profile. Okay, you have the skills like I have specific skills, additive manufacturing, SolidWorks, strong communicator. So get people to endorse those skills. And that is just to build trust with the people who visit your profile. And that just shows that people know that you have those skills and they are just endorsing them.
And how many skills would you say roughly? Oh, you've got a lot. Wow.
So there is a option on LinkedIn to put in the top 3 skills that you want to feature in the first row, and then you can just put on any number of skills that you have and start going to people's profile. If you go to anybody's profile, if I go to, say, I know this guy, Paul Brown. If I go to his profile, I can see, does he have skills? Okay. Yeah, I can just go and endorse some people's skills. They will endorse me in return. And this is the thing I'm talking about. The 99 plus skill endorsements. I don't have it, but it's a good target to have. Some people have it and they get a lot of networking on LinkedIn just because people see they have the skills endorsed by someone.
Okay.
And the other thing is skill endorsements. Okay, we talked about that. And references. So if you go to, wow, this guy is a rock star, Paul Brown. I did not know that. He has got 22 recommendations and he has given 12 recommendations. So that just talks about the personal branding. So when you create a profile on LinkedIn, you're creating your LinkedIn house. You're actually creating a brand for yourself on LinkedIn. The more people that have testimonials for you, the better other people will be able to trust you. You just lower that barrier for trust if other people are also recommending you. So when I would go to someone's profile like this, I know this guy does remotely produce videos, and I look at his testimonials and his recommendations, I would see that a lot of people like his work and they trust him. So I would send him a message and try to work with him. Okay, so when people look at your profile, if you have these recommendations, it's a very good thing. And the other thing, 8 and 9 are the list. So publish articles. You can publish articles on LinkedIn, and I have some articles that could be helpful for you. How do I see my articles? Is here. Okay. No, not manage followers. Okay, so I have 2 articles published, and one of them is how to create engaging content on LinkedIn. If you just publish articles, it just shows that you are active on LinkedIn, you have something to add. And if you just write a short article, it doesn't have to be long. The article that I wrote is less than 1 page, but it got 12 comments and 215 views. That's enough. So it just shows that people are connected to you and you have something to offer. It just shows that you are active. The other way to be active on LinkedIn is commenting on other people's posts. So you can create your own articles, maybe once a month, once every 3 months. Do some post about something interesting that you saw and your experience with it. And also the other way to stay active, it's a social networking rules, is you engage with other posts on LinkedIn, people who have done interested posts. Just put a comment on them, that like on them, and that just shows that you are active on LinkedIn. All right.
Prithim, what's the difference between the article and a status update?
So there is this article, and articles are more formal. It just article is more like a paper, and the status update is just a post on LinkedIn. You create a post. So if you look at activities, see all. So the post is, I do some post, I read something in some books and I like them, I just post them, and I try to do this post at least once a week to show that I'm active on LinkedIn. But whenever 2 or 3 times a week, whenever I log in on LinkedIn, I have some activity on LinkedIn. Like I know someone and they are doing something, I will just like their post. So people are able to see how much you come on LinkedIn, are you engaging with other people, just to create an active profile on LinkedIn. And it can take a lot of your time, so be careful about that too. Okay, all right. So that's any more questions on how to build your LinkedIn profile? All right. Then we will move on to the networking section. Okay, and these are some reasons why PhDs are not networking. One of the things is people don't have a strategy to network. Why would they network? They have no outcomes coming from the networking. Some people feel like they are stalking people, and it's not true, specifically in LinkedIn world, because people are out there so that you can see them. If they have put something on their profile and you go and read that, you are actually doing somebody a favor, because they want that to be read. They want to be known by somebody else. So take the time to read people's profiles, what they do, the kind of network they have, and do that to add value to other people. Okay, I'll talk more about that, what adding value means. And if you are looking specifically to network for a job, then it's important to understand what kind of companies you want to work for. And this session is geared more towards jobs, so I will focus on networking for jobs. So it's very easy to find companies that you can work for, and your best friend is Google. I am studying 3D printing, so the jobs I would typically search for are 3D printing jobs. I just and if you have a location in mind, that is helpful too. So I search Google 3D printing companies in Boston. There are many companies that came up on LinkedIn. So Siri actually started. My phone heard that and started searching that on Google too. Okay. So yeah, if you just look at, so I was looking at Formlabs, and if you just look at that company, you will be able to find on LinkedIn the list of people that work there. Okay, and this is the beginning of your networking. First, you have to know what kind of people, what kind of companies that you want to work for. Then just research that company on LinkedIn. This is the beginning of your networking. You'll be able to see the people who work there. The next section is, I want to talk about is, if I can have some people unmute their microphones, the list that you see here of the people, who would you connect with? Who would you network with first? What do you think? Would it be the CEO, Maxim Lobovsky?
Emma Boras, the operations at Forms Lab, basically.
I think Zachary, the engineering technician.
Yes.
Emma, she says she's hiring, so probably go for that.
Sure. And those are the correct answers. That was what I was looking for, because you would not be networking with the CEO and the CFO, because they are the C-suite executives and they are not going to give you a referral for a job. So what we are really looking to do through the networking is to get referrals for jobs. And how we do that is network laterally, like people who could be our equals if we get into that company, not people who are superiors. So remember this thing, we are trying to network with the people whose job we want to do, who are already doing the jobs we want to do. Okay, so that's how our networking strategy should be. Do not go and network with the CEO or the CFO of the company. They won't respond to you, and even if they respond, they would not give you a referral to join the company. Your goal for networking is to get a referral for the job. We are going more details into that. So before you start networking, the first thing that we discussed, get your professional profile in order. Make sure that your profile looks professional by following the previous thing that we discussed on the slide. The next important thing, the second thing that you need to do before networking with someone, take some time to do some homework on them. Their profile is listed online and it's there for you to see them, read who they are, know about them. And when you go to networking, you drop that first message, you have to focus on them, not you. Okay, and all these points 4, 5, 6, 7, the next examples I'll just go through them. I'll show you the examples of how to do that. So this is the example of a good online networking. So when you try to connect with someone, the first thing that you do is send a connection request with a personal invite. Do not just send a connection request. If they don't know why you are connecting with them, it's very unlikely that they will accept your connection request. So study their profile. Their profile is there for you to study them. You're not stalking them. That is a big barrier for some people. You are not stalking someone. You are trying to know them. So when you know them, and this is just an example, if that person's name is Bill and you saw that he did some interesting work on peptides, just mention that, hey Bill, I came across your article and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's great to see someone doing some great work, and thanks again. So this is networking with someone who is already in your network, who are already friends with. That is what I recommend. So start networking with people. If you have a LinkedIn profile, look at people who are already in your network. If they are not in your network, when you send them a connection request, start like that. I came across your article on designing peptides and I thoroughly enjoyed them. I would be glad to connect with you on LinkedIn. Would you be willing to connect? Something like that, something very simple. And there is a good example of that, which is this one. So, and keep something that I want to stress here is there is a difference between just connecting and networking. So when you connect to someone, you send a connection request that I found this interesting, would you be willing to connect? You are connecting with them. The real networking starts when you follow up with them after you connect with them. That is when the networking starts. I have an example here, is with Marcos. I sent him a connection request. Hey Marcos, I like your work in these structures and concrete work. Would be delighted to connect with you and know more. So Marcos responded, all right. He viewed my profile. The first thing that he did, was looked at my profile. And that's going to happen to you. When you send a connection request to someone, the first thing they're going to do is visit your profile and look at your profile. So that is the first step before networking. And I want to just stress that one more time. Get your profile in order before you send that connection request to people. So he was very nice. He got to the first message saying that he wanted to meet me, talk to me on the phone or on Hangouts. And I followed up with him. Okay, I have Zoom. Do you want to meet up for Zoom? And I scheduled a meeting with him to know more about what he does. So my goal on this networking is not to ask him, hey Marcos, can you give me a job? That is not going to work. Okay, the first thing is to try to know them, add value to them. Because when you go to network with someone, if you ask someone that, hey, I really like your work, I want to know more about how you got to where you are. People are always willing to talk about themselves. People love talking about themselves. And that is what you need to do in networking. You got to know where they are and how they got there. You are not going to ask about a job. That is going to deter them away. Go to them, set up a networking, start networking, connect with them, follow up with them, get on a phone call with them. And if you get on a phone call with them, what you would do is try to get to know more about them. And the other way of networking is introductions. Okay, so maybe you have someone in your profile that, for example, some recruiter contacted you and you don't want to work in the position the recruiter is working in, but you know someone in your network that could be a good fit for your profile. So you introduce the two people. That is how you start getting jobs too. Because when you are introducing your other people to recruiters, what they will start doing is when they get job offers that they are not interested in, they are going to refer you to that recruiter. And this is a very powerful way to just magnify the efforts of job search by using your network. So your network is your personal army who are branding you and supporting you all the time. And use that army. You just go connect with them, follow up with them, get to know them, let them know you. So you have built that rapport, that friendship, that relationship with them. And then if you can introduce them to someone, they will do the same for you. That's how your network is going to start growing. And eventually it goes into a viral effect. Because I started networking about 6 months ago, and ever since that, I haven't had to apply for any jobs. I am constantly getting referred to jobs by other people who are not interested in those jobs, and I'm being able to tap into the hidden job market. So why you should build your network now is what I want to stress, is it's the number one source of hiring volume. 50% of all firms, the positions that they fill is through referral through someone. And it's a very good source of hiring quality. In any company, when the company is growing, the toughest job they have is hiring someone. Because finding the right person to work in their company, a person that will fit their company culture, is very hard. That's why they have all these recruiting companies and the other people doing the work for them. If someone refers you to do that job, it means that that person trusts you and you have already been filtered through a list of 1,000 candidates. And the company's recruiting time becomes substantially low. So if someone refers you, you have a much higher chances of landing a job than just blindly applying through applications. And the most important thing that networking will help you do, other than getting referred to recruiters, is get to the hidden job market. Like I said in the beginning of the presentation, that most of the jobs 80% is not posted online, and you can get access to those jobs if you start networking. So this is the example that I said. I had got referred for a job just 2 months ago that was not even posted online, and because it was not posted online, I could not apply for it, but I still got referred to that job. And I will show you how exactly that process happened. The job search spreadsheet, I will get into that. So this is the topic I wanted to talk about first, finding the hidden job market. How do you do that? Put this slide here. So Zach was someone that I had connected with on LinkedIn. Before the COVID thing started, I connected with him on LinkedIn last year, and he's working at a 3D printing company in Rochester. So what happened, I'll tell you the story, is I told Zach, hey Zach, I have seen your profile and you're working in the 3D printing of medical devices. I want to know more how 3D printing works in the medical industry. Can we meet up for lunch sometime? After that, we went to a lunch somewhere in Victor. We met up and he actually bought my lunch, which was good. So we met, we talked for 1 hour. 2 months later, I was looking for more jobs. I just contacted Zach. Hey Zach, I am looking for some jobs in this profile as a research scientist. I am not sure what are the companies I can look at. Can you help me? So he said, yeah, sure. Just send me your resume and I'll help you. So what Zach did was, he had done a additive 3D printing course at MIT, and he was in the group of that MIT course group. So what he did was, he posted my resume on the MIT post group, and that someone from MIT saw my resume and they said, okay, this is a position that we want to hire in. We don't have to post, we have not posted it yet, but this resume seems like someone who could work in this profile. So that was the hidden job that I had. I didn't know that job existed, but someone in my network had a contact that could give me access to that hidden job market. So what happened next was this. I followed up with the MIT guy. I sent him an email about our connection on LinkedIn, and he got back to me. Yeah, I have your resume and we are looking to hire someone. The job is not posted yet, so we could do a video conference next week. That was it. I didn't have to go through a job application portal and not even be sure if someone is looking at my job. Someone had already looked at my resume and contacted me. So that is what networking can do for you too. If you all are PhDs, you have something valuable that you have to offer to companies out there. So build your resume, build your LinkedIn profile, and if you're networking, just keep building your network, helping others, add value to others, introduce others to recruiters. And as you build your network, you will see that within 2-3 months, you are getting referred to jobs. You are getting, just by networking and trying to know people and asking people for help, you will be able to see that people are referring you to jobs and getting you access to the jobs that are not even posted online. And try to do that now when you are looking for jobs, because like I said, it takes 2-3 months of networking time. It's free, it doesn't cost you any money, but it takes some time to build your network. Like they say, dig your well before you are thirsty. If you need a job 2 months from now, start networking now, and so that you don't go crazy, because networking can add up soon very fast. It's very wise to maintain a spreadsheet, and a spreadsheet can be something like as simple as this, where you have the company name, if you have the job listing that you want to apply in, or you can post that too, the contact and name of the person that you contacted and the date and time you last contacted them. So you will be able to see the number of people you have networked with. Your goal would be, if you are actively looking for a job, to network with at least 20 to 30 people every week within the next 2 to 3 months. So I understand it's about quality of networking, but you have to have that quantity too. Make it a goal to fill that spreadsheet with at least 20 people every week. And you will be able to see that result compounding in 2 to 3 months. If you do that now, within 2 to 3 weeks, I can guarantee you that you will land a job that has not been posted online, or a job that you did not even apply to. A recruiter comes and contacts you, or you are referred to another recruiter. It's much more helpful than sitting down and applying to job websites. It's a boring thing to do. It's very frustrating. Nobody even looks at your applications. This is a much more better strategy. And if you follow this networking strategy, you will be able to land a job very fast after you have done it for 2 to 3 months. So this is an example of bad online networking. I just wanted to put it at the end and say that do not do that. When you send a connection request to someone, do not brag about yourself. Okay, instead of focusing on the people you are talking with, hey, I liked your profile, your work on mock proteins. You are talking about yourself. I have 50 papers, I have 100 patents. If you do that, it's a deterrent. People won't get back to you. So this is just a good practice not to do. And like I said, don't put in the first message that I am looking for a job in this position. Try to know that person, where they are working, how they got there. And eventually, when you have built that rapport, that relationship, they will help you. Your job is to build that trust with them. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. We have 30 more minutes in which we will discuss. But before we do that, I just want to write down on the slide, we're going to share this slide with everyone, that did you have takeaways, and what were some of your takeaways?
I'll say that one of the things I thought was the funniest was at the beginning you had a graph showing where people find jobs, and that newspaper classifieds actually were more successful than job fairs. And as any PhD student who's been to a career fair, that feels very real. But that's more just a funny one. I've never heard of the hidden job market, and that was really interesting as well.
Yeah, I agree with that, Karen. I went to the career fair too for the first 2 years, and after that I stopped going to it. Okay, career fairs are not effective, hidden job market. Any other takeaways from anyone?
So in my case, I did not know that there was a specific session for recruiters on LinkedIn. So that's something that I'm going to have to take into consideration from now on.
Yeah, I want to tell that about that button on LinkedIn is that is specifically for people who are working in companies and who are looking for a new job. So if they turn that on, only visible to recruiters, other people in their company are not able to view that they are also looking for jobs. Only recruiters can see that. Cyril also asked me another question that I want to address here. Is that Cyril asked me, is it important to have a paid LinkedIn profile or a premium LinkedIn profile? I don't have it, and I don't think it's necessary, because how LinkedIn really makes money is from the recruiters. The recruiters have paid profiles through which they are able to search candidates. If you are just using LinkedIn for networking, you don't need to do that, because you are not trying to message people without connecting with them. You are trying to know people. So if someone connects with you on LinkedIn, you don't need to send them message without connecting with them. That is what really the paid profile gives you. You can message anybody on LinkedIn, even if they are not connected to you. Any other takeaways? How about Alisa?
I took a lot from this. I have been slowly updating, well, not slowly, I've been steadily updating my LinkedIn profile, and I've been trying to network. One piece of advice my brother-in-law gave me, he has a PhD in chemistry, and after he got his first job, he's never had to look for a job again, everything has just come to him. So one piece of advice he gave me was that I need to whore myself out, his words, not mine, in the sense that, connect with people who I've known, whether it's from high school or from college, even if it was like my freshman year, who work at a company that I want to work at, or who, are working at a company that I have applied for. And the piece that he mentioned was because of referral bonuses. And a lot of these bigger companies will give like $5,000, $10,000 sometimes. So, I don't know, that's an area that I've really struggled with. So I personally took away your networking skills, and like some of the templates that you've gone through for the best way to do this. I never even thought about like looking at articles people have written and starting the conversation that way. So I think that's a cool point that I might try to leverage.
That is actually true, and that is one of the reasons referrals work so well.
Yep, money, money, money.
Yeah, and people are looking to refer you. So it's not just you want to get referred, but people are looking to refer you, because what of Elisa mentioned, they get bonuses for referring good candidates. So if you know you are a top candidate, take that time to network. That person, you never know, can refer you, and it could be mutually beneficial for both of you. How about Andrew? We can't hear you, Andrew.
There we go. I unmuted it. Forgot about that. Sorry. Not a huge takeaway, but I just never thought about how active the process was.
Can you explain?
It's not, it's hours per week, not hours per year kind of thing, if you want to really do it.
So the footer links that we have in the FBP library.
Yeah. So Andrew, I'm going to. Are you done sharing?
Yeah, that was my main takeaway.
Okay, so I'm going to mute you because there's some background noise.
Yeah, my girlfriend's also on a video call.
Okay, all right. Okay, so let me write that down. Networking takes time, and that is very true. I cannot tell you that it's going to happen on its own. You have to take the time to do it. But if you put it the time, there are many studies that have shown that it's the most effective technique to land a job. So you can either use the most effective technique or not use it. And networking, how it grows, it's a lot like coronavirus, right? How it expanded, how it went viral very fast, because it expanded from people to people. So when you start building it, it's initially hard to build a network of even a few people for the first few weeks. But if you go to that 1 month or 2 months of networking every week, you'll see your networking expand exponentially, not one person at a time. Will start expanding exponentially. So the results come very fast once you have a momentum, but it takes time initially. All right, let's go to Snehal. Any takeaways, Snehal?
I don't know if it's applicable to everyone, but for me, the way we approach or the way we write a message to anyone to contact, we should talk more about the one we are interested in, the job and everything, than about ourselves. I guess that was new for me and important for me, because in my head I could have imagined writing about myself, everything, the exact bad example that you showed to connect with everyone. So that was new for me.
Okay.
And if I may, I just wanted to ask one follow-up question about that.
Yeah.
So how do we do a follow-up on such request? What's the frequency we should do a follow-up if we do not hear anything back from them, or we shouldn't do it at all?
So that's where this comes in handy, the job search spreadsheet. If you make a spreadsheet, you can see the last time you contacted them. If you think that it has been about 2 weeks that they have, or a week that they have not responded, and you feel you really want to know this person, what the position they are working in, then follow up within a week.
Okay.
Or once every week. Yeah, there are some people who need to see that you are serious about it. So unless they see 4 follow-up messages from you, they won't respond to you. But that's how people are. They like to procrastinate things.
Okay, thank you.
Alright. Let's go to Cyril. Cyril, do you have any takeaways? I think you mentioned one.
So I learned about the whole process of networking, actually, the way to send messages and that part of it. That was really interesting.
Okay. Yeah. So that's another interesting point. Like, networking is a process. If you follow that, you connect with someone, you follow up with them, set up a time to talk, and now it's especially more easy. Everybody is at home. You say you are a student, but you are looking to know more about what they are doing in the industry. They will set up a time to talk with you. So it's a process. You connect, follow up, set up a time to talk, and then follow up again after some time. So that's a process. That's a good point. How about, I can't see everybody's name, I don't know why. So Nidhi, did you have a takeaway?
I thought networking was just sending connection requests, so I had a lot of takeaways, and the points are all right here. But yeah, mostly I had a question about how to follow up with someone, or how to be subtle. You want a referral from them, but I know that's not the first thing you're supposed to ask, but how to be subtle about it. So I learned that today.
Okay, so if I may write it, how to build rapport. Yeah, so that is the goal, Nidhi. You are not focusing on getting a referral, you are focusing on developing a relationship with them, so that they get to know you, you get to know them, and if something comes up, they are going to refer you. Don't have to ask for it. But you can ask for it as an advice that I am looking for a job in such a role. Do you have any advice of where I could look at or who I could connect? But you have to build that rapport first with them, that relationship first with them. Okay, Mehdi.
I think for my case, the bullet 6 is what I learned. Like, the important to focus on the people if you are doing the network. Important to focus on the people inside of yourself.
Okay. And I can't see your name on this, but our PhD student in the blue t-shirt.
That's me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Sanket. I'm a fifth year PhD student in imaging science.
Okay.
Yeah, so the one thing that was interesting was you said a brief thing about writing articles, right? Just a follow up to that, even just commenting on a post written by someone in the field that you're interested in and giving your opinion on it can get a lot of views on your profile. And if your profile is really decked up, and that's a really nice way to start a conversation, because once you get a view, then you can go back saying, hey, you viewed me on your viewed my profile, and then you can probably introduce. That's a good icebreaker, I think.
Excellent, Sanket. Yeah, that is a very good strategy. You don't have to create posts by yourself all the time. You can also engage with other people who are doing good work in your field. That just shows you're active on LinkedIn. And like Sanket mentioned, that it's a very good way to be more visible on LinkedIn. So when people search for you, your name comes up on top if you're more active on LinkedIn. Right. So that was the presentation we had until 4:30. And if you have any more questions, or if you want to go into something in more detail, we could do that now.
I actually had a question. I'm mainly just looking for advice because I have had employers, reach out to me, and they always ask me what my expected salary would be. And I never really know what to say, because I feel like if I say something too high, the company may be turned off and completely move away from me. But if I say something too low, it's, maybe I should have said something higher. So, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that? My dad said to just say like fair market value. So whatever the pay is for that position in that specified area. But I don't know if there's, other ways to approach that.
Yeah, the way negotiation strategy, that's another talk. The way that negotiation works, I'll give you a very short answer, is never make the first offer. People's answer are mostly geared at the compensation is not everything I'm looking at. The company culture and the team environment also matters a lot to me. So I focus on the whole picture. Any acceptable compensation offer would be good for me, and let them make the first offer. So just say that you're looking at the whole picture, the whole package that they provide, and any acceptable number would be good for you.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Have you run into a situation where you've tried to connect with someone that's inactive?
Yes.
And how'd you figure that out, and what'd you do about it?
Yeah, there are some times when I follow up with people too that they don't respond. They are active, they are posting on LinkedIn too. I just send them 3-4 text messages, follow-ups, but they still don't respond. And the best way to look at that, I have figured out, as this plenty of people. If someone is not responding, I don't have to be stuck at that. There is so many people that can help me that I even talk to 5 people a day. I cannot get through all of those people in my lifetime. So if that happens, next person.
And Lisa, something to add to your question, actually. LinkedIn, the premium subscription usually is free for about 30 days. And you can get, like, if you sign up for that, remember to cancel in 30 days. But when you go to a job posting, being part of premium, it gives you some stats as well. Some part is like salary. For if you're looking to go into a research engineering position, it gives you like salary of how the salaries in other companies. So it might help you in your case.
Just to add to that, what Cyril just said, you can even check Glassdoor. It will give you a general idea of what people earn in your position for that particular place. And then once you have that figure, then you can email the HR back saying, here is what I think is the market expected thing, but I am open for negotiations, because I care more about the position and the team rather than just the number over there.
Okay, anything else people want to discuss?
Yeah, good thing about the Glassdoor, it helps you even in your interviews as well.
All right. So this was a good one. People, we got 9 takeaways. That's very encouraging to see that you got so much value out of this presentation. I think what will happen is we'll share these slides. I'm not taking charge of that. Cyril is. So Cyril, can you explain how people are going to get access to these slides?
Yeah, I'll email you guys the link to download when this is over. And probably towards the end, in a couple of hours when Zoom sends me the recording as well.
All right. So yeah, good seeing everyone today, and that's it from the presentation. This presentation, as you know, was organized by the Doctoral Student Association. It's a great association to help networking of PhD students on campus, and they're doing some interesting things very soon. Now, president of the Doctoral Student Association is also on this call, so I'll turn it over to her and let her conclude the meeting. Alisa.
Sure. Additional leadership position to your resume, or adding something to your LinkedIn profile to show that you have leadership and communication and organizational experience. We will add in the link that Cyril sends out, we will also add the link to sign up for the eBoard. So if you're interested, please consider it. Besides that, we will be having a virtual social towards the end of the semester, so probably in the first week of May. So, everyone can make their own cocktails at home, and we'll probably play some Jackbox games. So if you're interested, look for more details on that. And yeah, I believe that's about it. Thank you so much for coming on board today. I'm happy to see that, virtual content is something that people are interested in and can engage with. So we'll see if we can do more of this.
Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you, Preetham.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good day.